I'm literally setting up to start filming, and this song was playing, so went with it. Yeah, like it's let's see. 3:58 on the 11th of January in Manhattan, New York. I am looking at my view of the Hudson River. Yeah, it's pretty unreal. So I want to film this vlog. I don't even know if you can hear me over this. If you can't hear me, I'm not going to put it in. But if you can hear me a little bit, then I'm going to include it. Reducing the volume a little bit so you can hear me better. Yeah, so today I wanted to make some time. I am filming my branding content for the year, so I figured this is a story that I want to go with this year, and that's my being a content creator for the past 10 years, and I kind of want to share that story with you guys. So yeah, I'm getting ready to start filming. A lot of people do ask me about the journey, and even though I've talked about it in my startup masterclass, I feel like that was a bit structured because it was like, for a specific audience. So I just want to have a chat about building a business. Over 10 years, just turning my blog from a blog to a 6-figure business, which I feel like is a good story. And I mean, I'm going to try to tell as much of it as possible, but there's only so much that I can tell in this video as well. And I'm hoping to eventually, write some books about the lessons and all of that. But for now, I just want to share this story for somebody who is maybe starting out their journey. Maybe they're still in undergrad or just graduated and you're trying to find your footing. And a lot of people maybe do find my story inspiring. So just sharing how I got to where I am. So that's what this video is going to be about. Let me set up. Oh, and my outfit, my god, you guys. Okay, I'm really excited about my outfit. So this suit, it's really nice. It's a short suit. Let me see if you can get like the bottom. No, you can't. But it's a short suit. It arrived last night, so that's why I'm filming today, because I was like, okay, this is a sign. So I finished my work for the day. I'm going to work a little bit into the night, so I'm taking like an hour break to do this right now. So I love the suit so much. That was like a sign for me to film today because I wanted to film in this suit. So let's go. Hey darlings, if you are new here, welcome. If you've been here for a while, thanks for sticking around. My name is Nthanda and I'm a digital creator from Malawi, currently based in Manhattan, New York. I was born and raised in Manduwi, Malawi, and I absolutely love where I'm from. I'm the first of 3 siblings and have one gorgeous niece who is my absolute heart. I grew up a daddy's girl and my mother was my absolute best friend. I love to drink tea, I come the most alive near the water, and my superpower is that I could shop forever. I think of myself an incredible combination of kind and strong, and I hope we can grow and glow together. Stay kind. What's up, beautiful people? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Nthanda Manduwi and I'm a digital creator from Malawi, currently based in Manhattan, New York. I really like the sound of that intro, by the way. It's like, from Malawi, Malawi, in Manhattan, New York. Like, how many people can say that? How many people get to say that? So I'm proud I get to say it. Anyway, this video today is going to be very casual. I just want to share on my journey because there's been several people who've asked me, like, how did you get where you are, having started out as a blogger 10 years ago to now running or owning 2 separate businesses that seem to be doing well. So what's the journey like? Where did you start? I think some people ask me, even like when you were in undergrad, did you always know what you were going to do? Did you always know who you were going to be or where you're going to end up? And I do usually answer, but I feel like I want to answer this video because I usually see that when I answer people in like, sorry, I need to take off my heels. So I felt like doing this video would be a way to answer all of that in an easy format, but also just share my story with you. So I guess we'll start from the top. 2013. 2013, I was in my first year of undergrad. So if you see me looking this way, it's because I wrote down a few key points, like some pivotal moments, so I don't forget. So it's just going to be a very casual chat. I'm in my apartment right now, so I'm just literally casually sitting here just having a chat with you guys. So 2013, I was in my first year of undergrad. Since I was a child, I always knew that I wanted to work in the media industry. Like, that was something that I knew. And my parents said this is like, since I was like 2 years old, I would go, I think 2 or 3 years old, I would go behind the TV screen and like stand there and say, or when they're watching TV, like I would be like, can you see me? Can you see me? You know, I think some kids do that, you know. So they always knew that I loved the media. And my dad owned several cameras when I was a kid. So I think cameras are nothing new to me. Like, I've kind of grown up literally in front of the camera. So like as a kid, I had a lot of pictures of me. Growing up through my life, I have a lot of like media content of me from my dad and then eventually myself. Like, media has always been a part of my life. So anyway, in 2013, first time that when I finished, you know, high school, I actually remember when we were in secondary school and we had to do career day on the graduation day. And we had to come as who we want to be. I remember dressing up in a suit. That was a horrible suit, by the way, like a skirt suit. My God, it's a horrible one. Like, I want to burn those pictures. I'm sure they still exist somewhere. I wore a wig. I wore this really huge suit that my mom got for me when I think she was shopping for her own suit with my dad, and I wanted one. I asked my dad to get me one, I think that day. And I got one and I took it. I wore it on the graduation day. It was a horrible suit. But anyway, I said I wanted to be a media professional, and I actually said I dressed up as Angel Chima. I think I've never said this out loud, and I don't know if she knows it, but that's who I dressed up as that day. And she's somebody that I've actually come in to be in the certain circles. Her and her husband are kind of friends of mine now, which is really, really amazing, and they don't even know this part of my story. So anyway, I dressed up that day and I said I want to be a news anchor. She's a news anchor, a really famous news anchor in Malawi. So I said I want to be like Angel Chima, or like, you know, in the media. Then going to college, you know, learning what you want to study. Almost immediately, I knew that I wanted to study media. At the time, I think there was like a media for development course that we had. We also had a communications department. But because of my background and my strengths, I did not study communications because I was good at sciences. I was good at math. I was really, really good at math. So just coming from secondary school, I had 12 points. So I had 12 points. I had distinctions in almost all my sciences. I had a 1 in math, 1 in English, 2 in physical science, 1 in biology, I think 3 in agriculture. Which one am I missing? I don't know. But yeah, my points were around that. And then I would get weaker on like the more artsy type of stuff. So it didn't really make sense for me to go for the arts. The sciences made more sense. So I didn't want to do pure sciences. So I went for social sciences. So I took social sciences as my course, and eventually I was still learning like because I knew myself to be good at math. So I was like, what can I study, you know, in the mathematical area? So I did economics, I did demography, and eventually after the 4 years, I ended up double majoring economics and demography, which were very mathematical courses. Regrets, a few, 1 or 2, but not really. Yeah. Anyway, so in first year of undergrad, in my media, you know, wanted to be in the media. I knew that pageantry was an easy way to get notoriety, so I participated in Miss Chancellor College. I always wanted to do a bit of modeling as well, so it was like, okay, I need experience, let me try it. I did Miss Chancellor College. It was a really packed night. I remember the Great Hall was so packed that night. It was probably like the biggest night we had at Chancellor College. And at the end of the night, I won. I was Miss Chancellor College, which was pretty amazing and interesting to me. After that, I think Twitter was still new, and even like Twitter Malawi was still new. There was a little community going on there. So I remember being quite popular on Twitter Malawi back then. And I set up my, you know, social media. I remember my handle was at Rocker Shiki, which was my brand, you know. Then I always thought Rocker Chic, it was like a type of style that I used when I was watching like Disney. That was like a type of style, almost a biker chic type of look. So I thought Rocker Chic would be my thing, you know, and as a teenager, that is. So I set up that as my handle, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. And yeah, I started out my journey, and then because of the bit of the popularity I had, I would share posts and I'd get a little bit of engagement. So then I started following people around Africa, and I started following bloggers from Kenya. And I was like, there's nobody doing this in Malawi, so maybe I can do something like this in Malawi, blogging. So I started out with a WordPress little blog, and I would write some stuff and people would read. I remember I was dating my first boyfriend, and we were pretty public. People knew us, people knew about us, so our relationship was quite public. And then when we broke up, I started writing about my breakup with him and the heartbreak, and a lot of young people related. I mean, we were kind of like teenagers back then, had a bit of people relating. And then that's when I kind of started exploring a bit more of my writing and expression. And I remember that's around the time that I met Mandela Mwanza, who is commonly known as Third Eye to a lot of people. And he just loved my writing. So he was just like, I love your writing. You're really talented. Keep going. And yeah, went through the years of college. Then I would collaborate with a few creatives. When I speak of creatives, I'm thinking mostly photographers. So I had my friends Benj and Walker, and we would just do photos. They loved doing photos, and I was kind of their muse. So we would do like a lot of photo shoots. So we have a lot of like photos from back then. And then eventually I started exploring style blogging. So I would do style blogging. I remember I would get on like the roof and just, do photo shoots. And back then, you didn't have everybody with an iPhone. So having HD photos was a thing, And I always had HD photos, which is really, really amazing. And I'm grateful that they were able to do that for me. And, we were able to collaborate and start together. And to see ourselves have grown over the time is quite amazing, really. So then I started my style blog. I didn't have as much money as I do now. Not that I have a lot of money now, but I didn't have as much money as I do now. I hadn't perfected a lot of things. Oh God, I love where I live, by the way. There's like, I'm gonna film it later for you guys so I can like put it in. There is a helicopter going down. There's a cargo ferry. There is a passenger ferry. Like, New York is just amazing and inspiring in a totally different way. Anyway, so where was I? Benj and I creating content together. Yeah, so we created content. I started exploring styles. I was talking about not having as much money as I do now. So I didn't have as much money as I do now. So I was trying, a few things. A bit of thrifted clothing, actually. Something that my mom always said about me was that you have a good eye for things. So she always said I had a good eye for things. And whenever we went shopping, even thrift shopping or otherwise, I would always pick out little nice outfits. So I always started, putting them together and, figuring out style. When I think about style, even, I think growing up, now it's so different. That's why, the 10 years are there. Growing up, we didn't have a lot of people in the public eye. So even thinking of like, what's styling, because the people you saw in the media were people who were in the news, and they were wearing like really serious suits, even looking as I do now, and I'm almost pushing 30 now. I was like, okay, as a 21-year-old woman, what do you want to be wearing that's still fun, but also still as a you're a young professional and you're getting out into the world? So that was a space that I was tapping into, still having fun, but also still looking a bit professional. So I remember I would do those photo shoots, and my audience eventually started growing, and it grew to about 10,000 followers. And then around 2016, when I was living undergrad, I participated in Miss Malawi. I don't really like talking about Miss Malawi because I have my own opinions and sentiments that I'm not ready to share just yet, but I will be willing to share them in time. So I started participating in Miss Malawi, and then at that time, I knew that the pageant girl me didn't align with my, I can fit it together now as a whole story, but back then I didn't want pageant girl me to be blogger me. So I ended up creating a whole separate page for my pageantry journey and separating it from my blogger journey. And I kind of shut down my blog for a little bit, just focused on the pageantry. Then I did the pageantry journey. I was first runner-up in Miss Malawi, and then after that, I was like back to, being me. And I will get to talk about it at length, but I felt like, now after the years have passed, even then I realized it, but now even having lived it, it's an affirmation. I know that I wouldn't have become who I am now if I had won Miss Malawi. And that's another thing that I guess I'll get to talk about in time. I am so grateful that I did not peak early, if that makes sense. Because I think if I had won Miss Malawi, that would have been like the high, for me. And I would not have pushed as hard as I've done to achieve what I have achieved to this moment in my life. Because I feel like not winning Miss Malawi made me realize you haven't won. You're not there yet at the high of your life. And you have to keep pushing. And I feel like for some reason, life kind of has eluded me of that success because I always believe there's greater success for me, ahead. And I think that continues to be true because for everything that I didn't get, there was always a greater thing for me ahead. And I am always so grateful for that. So I think when I think of failure, I think every time I failed, every time I've made a mistake, every time I did not win, it was always setting me up for something greater. So after not winning Miss Malawi, I was in this space where I'm like, okay, now I have to figure it out. I did not have the backing of the Miss Malawi machine, not that it was there. When I look back at everybody who has won Miss Malawi, they didn't have the support that a normal pageant girl should have, the type of platforms, the type of networks that something that, a pageant that actually works should give you. Because even when you think about even just Miss SA, they are managed, properly. It's a proper pageant. When you think of Miss Universe, they even moved all the way to New York City. When you think about me, if I'd gone the pageantry journey, I don't think I would have gone because I'm not that tall. So I don't think I would have actually won Miss Universe. And I'm black. Let's be honest sometimes, yeah? There have been black girls that have won Miss Universe and yay, diversity. But we have to be honest about, it's not easy for black girls to also win such pageants. So I probably wasn't going to win, and I probably would not have made it to New York in that, line, of career. And after Miss Universe is done, they do get to move back to their countries. For me, I'm in a whole different career trajectory. That was also for different reasons because of what I studied and what I love to do, which is human rights advocacy. So I ended up in New York because of my employer, and I'm grateful for that. But anyway, we'll get to that part of the story. So then that's when I started building my media career. So I was like, okay, I had a lot of support when I was doing Miss Malawi. There was a lot of people that were supporting me, and I leveraged that. So I pushed by myself, managing myself. I started writing proposals, and there's so much that I've learned over the years. I started writing proposals. I started going to people. I would write, I'm Miss Malawi first runner-up. I want to do a TV show. I want to market your products. I want to do this and I want to do that. And that's when the blog kind of came back to life. So I was like, I have this blog, I can do this. And there were certain brands that were willing to partner with me. So, I remember I partnered with Blockbuster. I partnered with Kazang. I partnered with Sunbird. I had all these partnerships going for me. And I think they taught me so much about business, doing business with people who are established in business. There was just so much learning for me there. So eventually, I think around 2018, first I registered as a sole proprietor, my media business as Ntha Media. Then I eventually incorporated it as BN Corporation Africa, because I wanted it to be different from me. So just a little story around BN Corporation. When I talk to French people, it's BR, because it's good. I'm not a French speaker, so I might even be pronouncing that wrong. But yeah, they take the BR pronunciation. So people actually usually think it's a French corporation. It is a Malawian thing. So what I wanted was BN, because most of my branding, even with Ntha, is reduced to just BN. So I changed it to just BN. I was like BN Corporation, but I was like, nah, that's still quite closely linked to me. So I realized, wait, BN, and BR means good. So I was like, yeah, that's it, corporation for good. That is perfect. So that's how BN was born. So it is for good, and that's how the name came to be. It was initially about being Ntha, but then eventually it's like, BN Corporation. At that moment, I think I was already thinking around the Ntha Foundation. Initially, it was like the Nyenyezi Foundation, because my name is Nthanda, and it means morning star. Morning star in Chichewa is Nyenyezi ya kumawa, so Nyenyezi is star. So I was like, Nyenyezi Foundation, that's my thing, my corporate social. And there was also so much learning around what type of businesses to do and what you can do and what you shouldn't do, and how hard money is to make in Malawi. Hey, there was so much learning for me there. So we learn from other young people, and that's also, I think, why it's important for me to be able to share this story, because I feel like if I stinge you guys of this story. Maybe you might learn something from it. Maybe not even what I intentionally want to teach. So I'm just going to share, and you pick whatever you can pick from it. So, the people we had seen doing stuff, some of them had started NGOs and they'd gotten some funding, you just them traveling the world. There wasn't too much in the private sector. There still isn't even up to now. So it was, learning and seeing like, okay, so this is what people do and all of that. So I was like, okay, you start an NGO, you serve a little bit, learning about the do's and don'ts and what's good and what's bad, criticizing what's not right and working with what's working. So there was, a lot to learn there. So I was like, I want to do an NGO. And I remember in 2018, my university supervisor sent me an application, like the International Conference on Family Planning is looking for young people to, I think I skipped a very important part of the journey, which is when I set up the blog with Weezer. And Weezer has been a very fundamental part of my entire journey. I think everything that I know about tech, I've learned so much more now, but he introduced me to tech. He brought me into the world of tech. We set up my first website together and we did all of that. So he introduced me to kind of the idea of digital media. We set up the blog post. To have my first .com was such a big thing for me, and actually a big thing in Malawi. So I remember secretdefined.com was my first website. Then eventually we migrated to Ntha after Secret Defined. Did I even mention about Secret Defined? Yeah, the story is all over the place, but I'll get to refine it. So there was Rocker Chic, and then after Rocker Chic, I changed to Chic Redefined, which was like, me redefining myself in a new space. This was kind of the, after the Miss Malawi, I think towards the Miss Malawi journey, living undergrad around that season for me. And then after that, it was like, okay, just by Ntha. Chic Redefined is dead. You're no longer a teenager. You're just Ntha. I've even had to struggle with that. Like, do I still want to be by Ntha or do I want to evolve to by Nthanda? But, I know by Ntha rolls off the tongue much easier, and it's kind of a brand, right? People know me by that. So I would rather just keep it. I think it's much shorter, it's easy to brand, it's easy to communicate. By Nthanda, I have to start explaining the pronunciation of Nthanda. By the way, living in the West, I have never realized my name was hard to pronounce until I lived here. So I am Nthanda, I am Nthanda, I am Nthanda, I am so many different things. It's just, okay, whatever you call me. And actually people call me out for not correcting people for mispronouncing my name, but I'm like, I'm too lazy. Like, as long as I know you're trying to call me, like, it's fine. I know we have to correct people and not let people misname us, all the, stories around that, but it's okay. It's fine. Anyway, so coming down to incorporating my business, I think, and Ntha Foundation. So when I wanted to, International Conference on Family Planning, we're back to that. International Conference on Family Planning was the first one that I applied for. We had to create a video. I had just bought my little camera. I was vlogging and all of that. So I applied for this. I remember filming my own video. I sent it to my supervisor. He made his comments. I made my corrections. I applied for this conference. They were looking for youth leaders. I talked about a little bit of the work that I was doing, a little bit of what I had done, even from Miss Malawi, from undergrad and everything. Eventually I was selected to be part of the youth leaders, and there was I think hundreds of us that went. And I reached out to the team that was organizing, and I told them I have a bit of media experience, I can do filming, editing, writing, and they're like, yeah, come on board. Actually, I had just published my book. Yeah, I remember now. See, this is how you know I didn't structure this properly. I'm just literally telling it as I know. So when was this? In 2017, after Miss Malawi as well, I was exploring a bit more of my writing, and evolving from blogging, I wanted to publish a book. So I started writing by the end of your teens, because I felt like this was very important. Like, I'm like, okay, there isn't much talked about, when you're a teenager, what you should do, what you shouldn't do. You're kind of figuring life out by yourself. Maybe I even scared to talk to your parents about certain things. So I had experienced a lot of death, I remember, even things around love that I wish I knew before. Even finding myself as a young professional. And I think I still have to consolidate my thoughts around if it's a good idea to share that book, because I found my writing to be a bit patronizing to some extent, and I would want to rewrite that. I would hope to republish that book eventually. So around 2017, I started writing that book, and 2018, I self-published. So I collaborated with a few friends. My friend had his parents' printing company. He was handling their marketing for them and helping them get, marketing and clients. So he asked me if I wanted to publish with them, and they went ahead and they printed the books, a bit of promotional materials. I remember getting one roll-up banner that I probably still have to date. I talked to Glam and Glory products, and they gave me a few hampers to give to a few people at my launch. I talked to the German ambassador then, and he was willing to host me in his home, because when I met him the first time, he was actually open and willing to supporting me in my writing journey. After we had a chat later, he actually said, you know what, there's a lot of young people that share their dreams with me, and they never see them through. So when you saw your dream through, it was like, oh, she actually did it. She said she was going to do it, and she did it. And that's been my journey through and through. I say I'm going to do it, and I do it. I think that's always been my case, and I think a lot of people never want to share their, because a lot of people talk, we say we're going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be this person, and then you never do anything. So I know that's a reality, and that's never been, I've always tried to make sure that's not a reality of mine. So I told him I was writing this book. Eventually, when I was done, I wrote to him. I said, and I think actually how I met him, I don't know, he had just landed in Malawi, and he was doing his research around, Malawians, young Malawians doing things to work with. And somebody recommended me and a few other people to him. So we met at his house, and that's when I shared about the dream of the book. And when I published, I told him, and he was like, yeah, I can host you at my place. So I was hosted at the German ambassador's residence, which was just incredible. It became a whole fancy event. My parents came, my friends came, my entire community, because I wasn't spending money. My entire community came, and it was just the most beautiful experience. I launched my book, and, I was kind of putting the cornerstones of who I was, everywhere. And it was quite fulfilling. So after that, I was like, okay, what do I do next? I was writing my next book already, Feminine Silence. I never got to publish it. It was going to be about gender, but I feel like the field of gender is continuously evolving. And I never even want to have opinions in the now, because I'm like, there's still so much to learn and research. So that was going to take so much from me, and I kind of put it on hold. Maybe I'll write it in time. Time will tell. So after publishing the book, I wanted to establish it. I realized as a blogger, I'm always putting out content, like on Twitter. Okay, I've burned 185 calories today, and all I've done is clean. Very weird stuff. But anyway, I go back in the gym. I will link it up above, like the whole vlog and everything. This is not about that. So after publishing the book, I was like, there is not a space for Africans to share their media and content and just interact about Africa, like you can't think of a portal where you go and you just find everything to do with travel. Maybe now there is, but back then there wasn't. So I wanted to just create a portal where we just have creators, in whether they're video creators or writers or graphics, just somewhere where you can just find content about Africa, which I wanted for myself as a blogger, because I knew I needed such a space to be able to share about Africa. So I started reaching out to several people, like, can we create something together? I didn't have the money. I had a bit of a small paying job. For Malawi it was okay. Let me not say a small paying job, because it's probably equivalent to the job I have now in a very different way. I was working for the government at the time, so I wasn't getting a lot of money, but I was getting, enough money to get by. So at that time, I reached out to a few writers. I said, can we create something together? I was looking at doing a newsletter on the website, all these things. And I remember most of the writers were also busy with their own creative projects. So they were like, no, I can't do this with you, I can't do this with you. And I was like, okay, fine. I reached out to my friend Sakulu from India, and she was down with me. She's like, yeah, let's write, let's go, And we started. And then I needed photography, and I remember walking to Benson's studio, and I sat with him in his studio, and I was like, you know what, I have this vision. I want to do a magazine, a newsletter, a website, and all of that. And he was like, okay, cool, let's go. And we started. And that's where kind of my media company started growing, And we started with the newsletter creation. I talked to, I think there was like Mandela, Senji. I think, did I have Q in that one? I don't know if I had Q, but I had a few people that I wanted to be my covers, because there was 7 editions of the newsletter. And we started creating that, and we did the photography, the writing. It was actually really, really beautiful, and people were reading and retweeting and resharing. It was just incredible, and I hope to get back to that dream. And I think that's, that dream is going to actualize itself. I haven't given up on it, like the media company that I want or wanted. I think it's going to come to fruition in time, and that's what I've come to learn, to trust time and how it manifests. So after that, I was like, okay, for the people that I want to work with building this media company, they need to be good at digital media. And I knew myself to be slightly good at certain things, but I knew I was going to need an army who can do this, because I wanted people to have their own brands, be your own blogger, be your own creator, but let's have a portal where we share. So let me share what I've learned. And that's when I started the Ntha Foundation, and I started with a fellowship program. So the Nyenye's Fellowship was born, and we were talking about training people in advocacy skills. I didn't even complete the story about the conference. So when I went to the conference, I was selected to go to the conference, later in the year. That's where I got the vision and the clarity of what I wanted to do. So I went to ICFP 2018 in Kigali, Rwanda, which was also one of my first, no, it was my first conference, but I think my second trip out of Malawi. So being in Rwanda was really inspiring, because that's when I went to the media center, and I remember meeting the guy who was in charge of the media center. His name is Matt, and he's become a great colleague of mine now. I was just inspired because I'm like, I want to be a Matt. I want to run a media center like this, like somewhere where people are just creating content and it's just really exciting and contributing to like advocacy. That was just incredible. So that's what inspired me. I'm like, yes, if I'm going to have a media company, I wanted to do this, work in this space, contribute to good, do just exactly what is being done here. So I ended up coming home, and that's when I had the direction. I'm like, I want to work in the advocacy space. I want to do this and all of that. And that's when we started the Ntha Foundation, and I was building that up together with my people. And, I think I had Ntangwanika at the time. I had Morton. We were working together at the time. I don't remember if Morton had a job at the time, but we were both, putting our best foot forward. I was investing the money. They were investing the time. Then we started with the fellowship, and we did a lot of, I remember there was a few photographers that would offer to help me out as well. And Ben was always there, always showing up for me. So we did videos. Some of them have never even been edited. I still have the raw files somewhere in my media drawers over there. So we did a lot of videos. We did a lot of pictures, and we started making noise about it. We're doing a digital skills training and all of that because, I always wanted to share my journey. And so it was the teaching, actually, that I think I can say turned my business. And I was still making some money, but when I think about it, I think at the time that I was awarded the grant, I was charging about between $500 and $1,000 for me to work with a brand on my blog. And when I started offering this value where I wanted to teach what I knew, I was basically told that the World Bank is investing in Malawi, and there is basically $250,000 up for grabs for people who want to teach digital skills. And when the project came, I literally said to people around me, I'm like, I think the day I went for the meeting, for the briefing, I had just done like the concept, what I want to do and everything, and I completed it. And I was like, okay, now I need to start approaching partners, see who can collaborate with me in this project, training young people in digital skills, because I really just believe digital media is the future. I don't know if you can hear the bit of the background sound, like that's a helicopter going, somewhere. Like, so inspiring being here. Like, I have worked in this field for so long, and I still feel like I don't understand how the market works. So I'm doing an actual research around digital media in Malawi and the consumption of, digital platforms, information management systems, what it's going to take to actually make things work, like to make the information management system and for people to actually consume it. So analyzing the fact of what it takes to make that work. And I'm using a model that was created in like the 90s. So you know how far behind if in the 2023s I am using a model that was used by people that were creating it in the 1990s. That's when they digitized, that's when they were growing in that way. And we're just digitizing now. And I got the money and I started investing, I made some strategic decisions on maybe not buying the fanciest of furniture. I bought plastic chairs. I bought not the most expensive furniture, not the most expensive gadgets, not the most expensive computers. I was like, let's just start, but let's start and make this look big. And we rented a property that we really liked, and we went with it in Area 47. Then we started, branding, making the noise, and I'm always huge on branding, making everything bigger than life. I set up the hub, and I remember wanting, for me, my innovation center, which is going to be now, I need to swap my battery because it's quite low. That means I've been talking for a while. Hold on. Okay, I had to swap my battery. That means I was filming for too long. I just love my new camera though, and it came with the 2 batteries, which I'm really excited about. This is like the spare. So where was I? Talking about after having set up the hub. So having set up the hub, I pushed. That was the most gruesome part of my journey. And I think I was like, I'm going to figure it out. I'll buy not the most expensive stuff. I'm going to, sacrifice a bit of my travel blogging time and just get into building this company. And I had all the vision. Now we have the money. We kind of buffered a little bit, right, to support other young people who are working in this, space. I'm creating a space for collaboration where people can come and work. That was really incredible. That's exactly what I needed. I thought it was going to take us like 10 years to get here. So I'm like, okay, that has kind of been sped up by a lot, right? So, okay, we're here. Let's create the space. And that's where all the dreams around, I think we started creating like an e-learning platform, DG Savvy. And then I had the ideas of, I wanted to name it the Kwatu Center. That was my 10-year dream of where we would be, eventually have an innovation center where we can just come and co-create and have fun. I still have that dream. I still want to live that dream in my lifetime. So I had the conflict of, do I call this Ntha Foundation Hub? Do I call it the Kwatu Innovation Center? But with every business, the traction around, having longevity is always a good thing. So we pushed to now have it called the Kwatu Center, and that's what it's called now. But the idea I have for the Kwatu Center is so different from how it is right now, and my team knows it. They know the vision. They know what I want it to be. Starting that, we started creating the space. We did the project for 3 months. Then we had the renegotiation with them, went back and said, look at what we've done and look how greatly we've managed the money. We did better than a lot of the other people. Actually, we're very accountable. So we're very accountable, doing all our reporting. And I went back to them and I said, look at what we've done. So they were like, yeah, you've done a good job. Let's see. And I wanted to do it in Mangoji. So they were like, yeah, give us a proposal of what more you can do. And I shared the proposal. We can go to Mangoji. We can train more people. We can do this. And they were like, okay, fine, let's go. So I did the whole proposal again for the rest of the money, the whole 250. What was remaining was a 205. They pushed back and said, no, we can't give you everything at once. So we're still going to give you like 84. And I was like, still, that's great. At that time, I was applying for my current job in New York because so we were trying to launch different training programs in my NGO. And I hope to get to talk about that at length because I realized there is so much to be told. So I was creating the programs for my NGO for the training. So I had the fellowship program, but I realized what we were missing was also a management training program. So I was thinking, can we create a management training program for people who don't want to be entrepreneurs but want to support young entrepreneurs? Then my employer was launching a graduate program, which I thought was similar to what I was creating. And I was like, let me see how they're hiring. So I applied for that. And then it was like really interesting. I got through the first phase and I was like, okay, second phase and third phase. And it was getting quite close. And I was like, okay, this actually could work out. And eventually I made it to the top, 60. And we had that's when I started taking it super seriously. When I made it to the top 60 and we had a virtual assessment center because I was in Malawi and they were going to post us all around the world. So I remember at the time, that's when I started realizing, oh crap, I'm figuring this out with my business, but there's also this opportunity to leave Malawi for a while. So how do I juggle these two things? And I started preparing my team, telling them I might leave and basically delegating management, which I think was the greatest thing, empowering them to get to be able to run the business even when I'm not around. So I kind of started delegating really quickly because I thought I would be leaving by January this year. And then eventually the first time when I made it the top 33 of my graduate program, they started matching us to different offices. And I was initially matched to a different office within my organization. And it's a whole different story as well. But they didn't think I was a great match for that. And it was heartbreaking in the moment, obviously, because you're excited, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to New York. And then they tell you you're not a good match. And you're like, oh crap, okay, Then I remember even writing to the office and letting them know, oh my gosh, now this is triggering my imposter syndrome because I was so excited, to come to New York, and now I'm not coming to New York anymore. And then they were like, oh, if something alliance comes up, we'll let you know. And I went back to my business. It so happens that I'm gonna share all of this, all these segments, because I think they're all so important in how failing forward is so important and has been important in my career. The day that I got the news that the office in New York didn't think I was a good match, literally I was on the call. I'm not kidding. I'm on the call. I'm sitting in the hub. I'm sitting at my desk. I'm on the call with the officer letting me know of this news, which was really heartbreaking because I was ready to go to New York. I was ready to come here. And then there is a knock at the door. And I'm like, wait, I'm having a really important call, kind of, getting some rejection news here. Everything else can wait. So he's like, he knocked, then he waited, then he knocked again. And I was like, okay, this seems quite important. Then I go there and I realized the branding was of our partner for the hub, the Public-Private Partnership Commission. I'm like, oh, it's a news about, because we had been waiting a few months actually in between. And I haven't even talked about the breaks that we had between our funding and how much I had to juggle in between. Oh my gosh. Entrepreneurship is a lot, and there's a lot of tenacity there that's required of you. Yeah, so in that moment, we're waiting for the funding for them to approve the extension, and then that was the extension approval. So literally, I'm on the call with this officer who is letting me know of this news that I'm not going to go to New York because the officer didn't think I'm a good fit. And this guy gives me news of, oh, your contract got extended with Digital Malawi, and you have to continue running this project. So, it's like balance, like heavy balance, good and bad news. Yeah, so I got that news, and I even told the officer, I'm like, okay, I guess this aligns, because we just got this contract extension, and I don't know how my team was going to go on without me if I was supposed to be transitioning. So maybe this is the universe balancing things out for me. Anyway, after that, I kind of delved back into my business, setting up the second hub and pushing just really hard for everything to happen. Around February, I got a call from my office again saying there's another opportunity, and another office was looking for me to compete with other candidates, obviously, for a certain position. I competed in Ntha. The interview went really, really well. I knew I was coming this time for real. And I started preparing my team again, delegating everything, wrapping up my little life. And eventually, I think there was a lot more that happened, like in the past year. When I think about like even my 10-year journey, the past 3, 4, 2, okay, let's just start with 4, then 3, then 2, then the past 1 year have been like the most, like, growth is kind of like steep, like slow, then it just like goes, and I feel like I'm on the right now, like, going up and up and up. And I think it's an incredible space to be, and I feel like it's a great time for me to be able to share my story and what I have learned. It's getting dark outside, so I know I've been doing this for a while. So I moved to New York in May, and my business is being operationalized. I'm not in the operations anymore, so it's being operationalized by my staff. Because of my employer, I have to focus fully here and let them continue serving Malawi without me. But I still own the 2 companies there. When we look at our company records, we are usually trading with donor funding, and some clients that we had, we're looking at almost about maybe $100,000 to $150,000 in our budget, which being on this side of the capitalism, I'm like, it's not that much money. We could get to the millions of dollars to be serving the people, like to be doing what we need to be doing. We need to be churning a lot of money, and I have no doubts that we'll be able to do that. So that is a brief about my story, my entrepreneurship story. If there's a particular story in this whole chat that interested you, let me know in the comments down below, and I can do maybe a short video sharing with you that part of the story, what I navigated and how I navigated. Maybe you want to learn about partnerships creation. I'm going to do a whole series around entrepreneurship. So I don't want to share from a place of I think you should know this. So if you would ask me what you really think you want to learn, I'll be more than happy to share with you what I have learned and what I know, and maybe it can help you in your journey. So that's my brief entrepreneurship story. I hope to write about all the lessons and everything I've learned over the years, but it's been an incredible journey, and I would not change a single thing. So if you like the content, please do check out the entrepreneurship segment, which I'll be doing over the year, just sharing with you what I have learned over my years as an entrepreneur in the digital media space in Malawi, in Africa. And as a content creator, I'm also going to be sharing some tips around content. One thing I know for sure is I am tired of content creation. I've been a content creator for 10 years. I've done this. I've done everything there is to do. I've done the vlogging, the writing, the blogging, the YouTube, the Instagram. I've done all of it. I'm tired, and I want to share with you what you can do to build your brand. I'm where I want to be. So if I can help you get where you want to be, I will be more than happy to do so. So thank you so much for watching this video. Check out the entrepreneurship and the digital media segment. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. I'll be seeing you very soon. Until then, stay kind.